Hi, Brian. I have 23 questions to ask you. Are you ready?
I am ready. Let's go.
Okay, first of all, do you write in book margins?
No, I don't. I write on the fly leaves. Like if I have notes and I put a page number down, let's say page 93, blah, blah, blah. And I go from there. I may underline the odd book, but mostly I write on the fly leaves or the back cover.
It's very respectful of the book.
Yeah.
What was the last great film you saw?
Oh boy. That would be at TIFF. I enjoyed all the TIFF movies. Let's see, the last great one. All I can think of is the ones I want to see and haven't seen yet.
So what are those?
I want to see Belfast. I'm dying to see Belfast, right?
Yeah.
One is in black and white, which I really like black and white work as my photography, but also, Irish. My mother was Irish, so, Belfast, I kind of want to see how that went. I heard great reviews on that movie. So, yeah. One that I saw that it was really great. There was this is really bizarre. Okay, at TIFF, they have all sorts of strange movies, and you could go and you get 10 movies and you go see them, right? And you don't know what you're going to see until you get there, right? And this was a strange little film about a woman who ran a restaurant, a little wee restaurant, out in the middle of some desert somewhere in northern Africa, and people would drop by, and she would talk to them, and she would outlast all the modern gas stations and restaurants across the road. They all failed, yet her little shop with these people dropping by existed and continued to exist. And it was a fantastic film about this one individual doing what she did and it being important, small in the world of things, but very important in terms of her particular take. And also, I think it added to her life. She was quite old, and I believe that had added to her life running this little restaurant. I love this film.
I'm sure it sounds so lovely. What's the name?
I have no idea.
We'll find it later.
I mean, there's so many TIFF films I saw, and I thought, oh, I can't remember this. I can't remember. I don't remember anything anymore. I'm just kidding.
Brian, do you sing in the shower?
No, I don't. I was told by the nuns who taught me that I was a monotone. And so, those nuns, boom, 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 those nuns. So no, I don't, I'm not a singer.
Me neither, but I do it anyway.
Oh, good plan. No, that's good for you.
Name one poet who has been a major influence on you.
Nickel. Nickel.
What a choice.
And more his poetry, but also the person. That was for me. It was a combination of both. It was a friendship and his working. We also used to joke because we're almost the same age, but within a couple of years or something. But he was major senior in terms of my beginning to write. I mean, he was really into. Also, Nickel was incredibly articulate about what he did. Although I challenged that sometimes, thinking, "Oh, you weren't thinking all that when you were out there writing. I don't believe it." Blah blah blah. But yeah, Nickel. But also, you could ask me about Novelist. I could talk to you about that too.
I'll take it.
Okay. I read a lot of Juan Goita Solo. Juan Goita Solo is a Spanish writer, because I also could have included Lorca too, really, another major conversation. Anyway, Goita Solo was writing, social realist novels, which I've read. And they're, they were competent novels, blah, 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 until what the Spanish call the boom. The boom is when South American writing hit Spain, and it changed the face of what a novel could be in Spain. Juan Goita Solo changed, like, I won't say overnight, but it was a drastic change from the social realist novel to a more experimental style novel writing, which garnered him complete fame. It's interesting. He's the most read author in Spain and least talked about in his time, because he was incredibly treasonous to Spanish history. His writing also was a kind of run-on sentencing. I have been a master of incomplete sentences ever since I began to write, because they reflect the rapidity of thought.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw that in Goita Solo, when I read that, I thought, oh my God, he's doing it. He's a master at this, and I learned from him. So yeah, one Goita Solo. And then in terms of the poet, it would be also Garcia Lorca, Federico Garcia Lorca. And that was to do with his compression and his ability. He learned in romance writing, and I mean that in Provençal and all that, the compression. He understood compression, and in very few lines to get across a huge amount of information and emotion and feeling. I always used to think I was too brief in my writing. Oh, you've done the whole thing in like 3 sentences, and it should be a couple paragraphs and blah blah. I used to give myself crap about that. No, I began to realize that I had this ability to do this kind of compression and this kind of run-on sentencing, and bang, away I went.
I love, well, that's kind of a perfect lead into the next thing I want to ask, which is what's your favorite word right now to pack all of this meaning into one word or something? What's a word you love right now?
Camera.
Camera. Brian, go ahead.
It's 2 things, right?
Yeah.
Like we have in court, we have in camera when people are meeting outside the confines or of the court in terms of the gallery or press gallery or jury, but it's in camera, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's also my camera, the cameras that I use to do my photography work. And these are ingenious mechanisms, right? There's so much talked about, philosophically and theoretically about the camera. It's a mechanism by which you can grab light and make a picture. So yeah, I have a lot of vintage cameras is what I shoot with, and they're all mechanical. There's no batteries. You don't have to plug it in, blah, blah. You just get on with it, it's film. And I use black and white mostly. Yeah, camera.
On film? You shoot on film?
On film, yeah.
Is it prohibitively, now I'm off script, but I just have to ask because my partner is a photographer too. Is it so expensive to get the film and get it developed? Do you do that in-house?
Yeah, if I had the room, I would love to have a dark room. I took a course. I've taken a couple of courses on shooting and developing and a lot printing, both at Gallery 44 or Richmond Street here in Toronto, and also at Ryerson. And I love the process. If I had a dark room, I could just be in the dark room most of the day. I trained and made a living as a gilder. There was very different and very specific formulas by you were able to do this work. So that discipline was sort of how I felt when I was in the dark room. So yeah, it can be expensive. People are worried about the chemicals. They're okay. They're not going to eat your brain or anything. But I do most of my work through a camera company here in Toronto, Downtown Camera, and they will scan and print, but there's a lot of dialogue between me and their printers. Like I want this, a little more high contrast, or I want it cropped, or blah, 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 and go from there. Yeah.
How lovely. What are you reading right now? Are you reading something?
You know what? I have found in this lockdown time really difficult to read.
Me too.
It's like I can't seem to suspend, not disbelief, but suspend the resolution of a book. Like I just want to get to the end and get it over with, the feeling. I just want to get through this. It's not longer kind of really enjoyable in a certain way, because I love reading. But because of the anniversary of James Joyce, I've been going through Ulysses. And there's parts of it that are so funny, just wonderfully Irish, right? I then also have, and I started this, and it's Jack Kerouac's On the Road, but it's the typewriter roll, and it's just all the way through this, the way it was on the roll in which he typed it. I've been reading it and I thought, well, frankly, it's kind of dated.
Hmm.
The road thing is, yeah, and I understand at the time it was a breakthrough book. It was a whole, the beatniks are going to take over literature at this point and kick all the oldies out, right? All big changes, big happenings. But as I'm reading, I'm thinking, yeah, okay. Sometimes I go back to Burroughs. I love Burroughs.
Me too.
I was reading The Place of Dead Roads the other day, and there's this wonderful passage about killing off grandma. Well, I was laughing so hard. I mean, oh my God! I spent a weekend with him. Like it was like, whoa, what a weekend! And,
Wow.
yeah, he came to Toronto here through. Oh God, it wasn't Mercer Union. General Idea, maybe, I don't know. He came in to give a talk for the weekend, and so we all sat around with him for 2 days, a Saturday and a Sunday, and talked with him. And then one guy in the class said, "Oh, you'd like to see my knife collection? Oh my God, you should have seen him light up." So we all
Um,
went off to this guy's place to see the knife collection. Okay, go for it.
just hanging with the literati.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, sure. Go for it.
Um, Brian, thank you for trusting Gap Riot with printing, reprinting, archiving. I don't quite know what we're calling it, but at least getting to distribute section 2.
Right.
I like this question just in general, but I feel like I have to ask it of you because of the analog materials. First of all, pen or pencil?
In terms of when I'm writing?
In terms of whatever, let's say desert island, you can only have one kind. What are you picking?
Oh boy, I'd love to have a fountain pen, but I know I'm going to run out of ink.
Yeah. Very practical.
Yeah, so very practical. We'll probably have to have a pencil, kind of sharpen it, like sure. Yeah, when I am writing, I use a fountain pen. And the reason I use a fountain pen is it's not such a strain to push it like you would a ballpoint pen. It just glides, right? Away you go. I have a
Excellent.
fantastic pen. No, I have a fantastic pen. It's a Lyman, Parker Lyman, and a very expensive pen, which I picked up at an auction one night for $50. It's about a $1,200 pen, right?
Wow.
And so it's silver and gold, gorgeous thing. But I tell you, when you're writing with it, it just flows, literally, because the ink is flowing. You're not pushing, you're writing, right?
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, yeah. Number of fountain pens.
Uh,
And I like the idea of the ink and the cap and the way the pen feels, and you can have different colored inks, red, blue, black, blah blah. No, I like it.
I like that you're there's something about the material that's informing how you're writing too, that there's some kind of connection between this disconnect or working together of the brevity meets run-on sentence, and then the fountain pen and the materiality and the work, but still the flow of that's working together for sure.
Yeah. Well, yes. Well, I was thinking about this over the last little while. I have been making things since I was a kid. I always had my hands on something. I'd make this, I'd make that. And I mean, I don't mean to model airplane kits, plastic things. Yeah, I did that too. But what I did is actually made things out of nothing, like rocks and stones and moss. And I made a big kind of arboretum with little soldiers and blah, blah, blah. But I was always making something. So, and my working life, I was a gilder, a picture framer, right? A master gilder. And so I was always working with my hands. So that's a huge part of my life. And so the section 2, torque down break, that you've done with Gap Riot is again it's an indication of me making, as you well know, because you clipped and glued and pasted and cut and all the rest of that, right, to make that book, chapbook. So yeah, so the extension is, you know, with a fountain pen and a paper and different kinds of, 'cause different papers take the ink differently too, right? So some are more absorbent, some are too smooth, so the ink kind of, you know, it's a different feeling. So yeah, handwork is a big deal with me, like really.
Because you say that you have been making stuff like this from a young age. I wonder, do you remember the very first thing that you wrote?
Yeah, I do.
What
I
was it?
I do. It was I was reading the Hardy Boys a lot. So I decided I should do a Hardy Boy book. And so I typed and typed and typed and typed. And I gave it to my mom to read. And she said, well, um, it's all too quick, Brian. It's like you have to fill it out more. My mom was a major reader. In her day, she would read 2 to 3 books a week.
Wow.
So reading was a big deal with her and I. Rest of family, not so much. Anyway, so it was my first little lesson. Remember that brevity thing I talk about? Everything's so condensed that like the whole Hardy Boy book was like 2 paragraphs long, right? So, but yeah, that would be the first thing I did that I remember doing. Yeah.
That's so lovely. And I like the disconnect between that and section 2, which is I mean, I think I probably know 10 words in that book. I've been very close to this chapbook for the last little while, cutting and pasting. And I
Right.
think I probably know of 10 words that are in the book. Most of them I can't read, or I think I know because your handwriting is very, I don't know how to say it, not messy, but like
Really
doctory.
Yeah. Well, one of my teachers in high school, you know, it was biology, and we had to hand in our little books. We were learning about mushrooms and frogs or whatever, and so I got the book back, my notebook, and great big scroll right across the cover. The writing in this book is atrocious. I thought, yeah, well, what can I do about that? I tell you, though, there's a bit of a problem with that because I have lots of notebooks, right? Some are half full, some are part full, some are full, whatever. And I go back and I look through them for things, for new ideas or something I'm working on, blah, blah, blah. And I can't read it. I'll be reading along thinking, what is that word? What word did I use there? What's the context? Can I get the what context right and maybe get the word right? It's like, yeah, what can I say? um, yeah, yeah, the wording in section 2 is there's something about hand brought things, right? There's that one little blurb.
Yes.
And well, that's indicative too, because the whole book is about hand brought things.
Yes.
Bits and pieces of paper that have been cut and glued and all that. Yeah, in various, well, in some sense, patterns, right?
I mean, obviously, we at Gap Riot love the physical thing of the book, the physical look of books. I wonder, do you have a favorite book cover? Like when you see it, you're like, oh, yeah, that's the best book cover I've ever seen.
Oh, wow. One does not pop out into my head, really.
Is that because they're all so good or so bad?
Well, no, there have been some notable ones. I mean, Gertrude Stein's Blood on the Dining Room Floor was fantastic. It was a wonderful cover. Some of the stuff that Gord Robertson did for Coach House is I like those covers because they're he had a sense of a conceptual sense of a cover, and also in terms of hard edge painting, in a way, blocks of color and the way they would be placed on the page in patterns that would catch your eye, and also the way they used color. See what else. Yeah, some of the Grove stuff was pretty good. Burroughs, some of the Burroughs, you know, were pretty good. What else that I can think of offhand? Really, no.
Right now, I'm really into the book cover for Jim Johnstone's Infinity Network. Who did he do that with? I forget who the publisher is, but it's big, thick, almost gloopy looking white paint painted over the book cover, and then it goes over onto a back.
Jim Johnston's new book.
Yeah, isn't it so lovely?
I tell you, well, I love painting, having been a framer for 40 years, and my own collection of paintings. But yeah, that is a very striking cover. You're right.
I keep thinking about it.
Who did the painting? Do you know?
I don't know. Maybe Jim.
I'm gonna get a copy and ask Kirby, like, who did that cover? Who did that cover? Yeah, that is, and I love big goopy paint like that, right? You know, heavy impasto, nice.
Yeah, beautiful.
And in white too. You know?
Yes, seeing the strokes in there, so tactile and so visual. I think that's so wonderful.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Brian, the more that I talk to you, the more I can't decide if you're a very fastidious person or a very messy, fun person, or a combination of both. What do you tend towards one side of that or the other?
I'm a bit of both.
Yeah.
I'm fastidious in certain things. One, because of picture framing, it's a discipline, right?
Sure.
If it has to be 20 inches, it has to be 20 inches, right? You can't give it 19. That kind of fastidiousness. In terms of round me, my partner is always telling me to tidy up my area. Paper here. For some reason, I collect paper like you know. It's weird, and so I have to be ruthless, much more ruthless than I am. But yeah, I'm a little messy that way. My organizational skills leave a wee bit to be desired. I have a fairly large archive, right, of all the written material, but also the photographic material. So, well, I'll give you a little anecdote.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing a book with Mercury Press with Dedora, and when I was writing the book, because in some sense all of that material is floating around in my head. I thought, oh, you know what? That passage I wrote would work really well here. So I now have to go on a hunt to find it. Now I know that I wrote it. I know it's going to work. I just now have to find it, right? So I'm wandering through all these books and blah, blah, blah. Finally find it, use it in the book. Bev says to me, he says, this passage is just wonderful, Brian. When did you write that? Oh, 25 years ago. And I remember these things, but in terms of other things, boom, forget it, gone. Doesn't last a second.
I think we might be polar opposites. I have a very, very serious archival system and I have no idea what's in it. No idea. I'm constantly going through it and going, oh yeah, I forgot I had that.
I do that too. And I love that. Don't you love it though? Because you come across stuff that thinking, oh my God, I came across a passage just literally 2 days ago and I think, who wrote this? And I'm in serious doubt as to whether I wrote it or I copied it from something. It's like bizarre.
Well, speaking of holding on to things, let's talk a bit about section 2. How long have you been holding on to this?
Oh boy, I did that I was living in the annex that time. I was living at on Admiral Road when I did it. So that would be got to be 72, 73, somewhere in there.
Wow.
And it was tucked away in one of my archive boxes. And Kate came by for dinner and we were wandering through things and she spied that and she said, oh, how about this? I want to do this. Oh, okay, that's great. But yeah, I've been sitting in that little archive box for a long time. Mm-hmm.
So was there only ever the one when you made it? You made this one and then
which went on to something else.
Just went. Was there ever an intention to get it out somewhere or?
Not really, no. I tell you, some of the black pages, with the markings on it, the things that were glued on it, were reproduced in eyewear, which was done by Mercury Press and Text Editions. And it was a survey of some of the stuff I've done in the 70s and 80s in terms of my visual work. That was the only place that got close to any kind of publication from that chapbook. No, you guys were the one who sort of rescued it, really.
Does it, so I don't know, Kate and I keep talking about like, we like it and we love distributing it. We had a long conversation about whether or not there would be a page with back matter. We decided against it. We wanted to reproduce the book as closely as we could to the one that you made. So it doesn't say Gap Riot, and it also doesn't say Brian Dedora anywhere on the book, which I really like. So I wonder, can you talk a bit about authorship and authoring this book? How does it feel to be the author of this book?
Well, actually, despite my not, pushing it out and earlier and on, and then you guys taking this on, it is important, and it's important to me because it was a very early indication of the work I would be doing visually. Subsequently, I've done the paper poems, the Polaroid poems, various collage work, the virus stuff because of the pandemic. Yeah, it's important that way. The idea that it's just going to come out and may not have Gap Riot or my name on it is kind of fun. I like it.
Yeah.
Here's this artifact out there, and there's only 15 copies, right?
Yes.
It's handmade book. No, that's kind of neat. Going out into the world, and it's going to be just speaking entirely for itself, right? Those visuals will do, they will be perceived by whoever reads it, looks at it, thumbs through it, and they will see those visuals for what they are and for what they bring to it. Absolutely. I think it's a great idea. Go.
It has an official ISBN too, and yes, but it's not on the book. It's only on like the website page has all the information about the book proper, and then Kate and I sat around together with glue sticks and little scissors. Trying to get into the little tiny it's been very fun making them, and
yeah, I bet it was as much fun as I did making it in the first place, because you actually did it. You actually recreated not just a book, you actually recreated the process, sitting at your kitchen tables, your studios, as Kate referred to, and gluing and clipping and carrying on. And that's what it was about. See, when I'm doing that kind of work, there's nothing else going on in my world. That's all I'm doing. I am like so focused, so inside a little bubble of my making that's what the world is right now. So I don't know what if you felt, when you were making that, maybe you felt some pressure to get it as close to the original as possible. But when I'm doing that kind of work, that's all that's happening, really. That's one of my double-edged swords. I mean, being totally focused is a really good thing, and other times it's not, because I'm not paying attention to other things.
It's so funny that you say that, because I've been cutting out pieces and pasting them together while watching TV, just like soapy bad Grey's Anatomy. But I keep having to go back and rewatch episodes because I get into the zone with just the cutting and the pasting, even not making the creative choices, just getting the lines right and the placement where I want them, that I'll miss whole sections of the plot and I have to keep going back. So yeah, there's something zoning that's happening for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know what? I think that as creative, I mean, all people have their own way of getting into a particular zone, I think. But as creatives or writers or visual workers or whatever, we live for that zone. That zone is what keeps you alive. I've done a piece called statement, and it's a photographic piece, and it's about um, an artist, writers, whatever, creatives, I say, um, and you're in this zone and you're working, and it's a dance, and the thought and the making and all that is all coming together to inform that zone. And then what happens? You have to come back out,
Mhm.
and that's the hard part, right? And I just made a photographic essay about that because it's like you have to come back out, you know.
Yeah, yep, I hear you. It's funny how that I guess maybe when I was younger, I had this idea of that zone being some kind of space of inspiration and great philosophical, provocative thought. And maybe as I get more and more comfortable with myself as a writer and a publisher, I think
Right.
that the tedium and monotonous work gets me into that zone in a really fruitful I love the cutting and the pasting of it.
Yeah.
I do feel strangely inspired and creatively invigorated in the process. I think it has something to do with the childlikeness of the materials too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know what your was like, your childhood. Uh, but as kids, we made things,
Mm-hmm.
right? You were fiddling with this or doing with that and whatever. But there was an imaginative element to this. There was, whether you were, playing with dolls or me with a sand bucket or whatever the hell it was. There is something that is not just childlike, but like necessarily childlike. Like you that creative urge to make things or do things is like it's universal, and some of us retain that, maybe because of our own urges to be a creative or to make that a life. um, yeah, making things. And also, it is a zone, but it's also like it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's like play, you know. Um, yeah, more play.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, these days, doesn't it feel like, oh, remember fun? Remember play?
Yeah, yeah. Oh boy. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I have an exhibition coming up for the Contact Photography Festival as an all black and white work, my photographs work. And there's so I've been making the photographs, of course, and some of them there's one series from 1974. Um, and another one about 77, and then stuff right up till 2021, last summer. Um, but it has been play. It is again another form of me playing. And there's one thing which I've collaborated with a person on, which is total play. It's like, let's take these photographs and really do something completely different with it. I hope you get to come and see the show. This is not just a plug. It's more to do with taking photographs and using them as the cut and paste elements that you saw in section 2, Breakdown Torque. It's like you can use these. I mean, there's wedding photographs, street photographs, conceptual. There's all these particular regimes in photography, and they can all be sort of busted apart a bit. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
let's play. It's again play, 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 play. Or what if, that big question? What if I did that? What if maybe I could just cut that in half and see what happens, or whatever, right?
Yeah, it sounds so lovely. I'm excited about this show. Give me a link and we'll throw it in the on the website too, so that people can find out more information about it.
Yeah, I put it up on you can go to the Scotiabank Contact Photograph Festival website, and it's in open call. Open call is a really interesting concept with this festival. Open call is necessary that you have a space to show in. That's one of the first requirements, obviously. And then it's just people doing what they're doing. And there's such a wide variety of different ways of playing with photographs. You know, some are very straight, some are a little weird, some are this, some are that. It's the whole city is going to be engaged in this for the month of May. So yeah, lots to see and do.
Ah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Okay, I have one last thing I'm going to ask you to do. This is maybe a task, maybe difficult, maybe not. Can you describe this chapbook in 3 words and that's it?
Cut, paste, and view.
Oh, I love it. Cut, paste, and view. What a delight. Ryan, thank you so much for answering these questions for me.
This has been absolutely delightful. And,
Nice.
and I also want to give you and Kate a huge thank you for doing this.
Oh,
I
thank
mean, really,
you.
this is taking what would have been sitting in my archives for how long, and you have made it, you know, given it a whole new life. You put it out in the world in a whole different way. This is fantastic. Really, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for trusting us.
Well, Kate, Kate just picked it up. Oh, Kate. She's so wonderfully direct. So are you.
Yes. Wow, that's why we fit so well together.
Yeah.